will need to follow my voice as it leads you into a relaxed state of meditation.
Welcome back to the Hobby Grow podcast. I'm your host, Ben Owens, hobby grower and ghostwriter for the cannabis industry. Each week, we'll dive into my network of growers, hash makers, breeders, and mentors around the world to give you insight into their journeys, as well as give you information you can use to grow better weed and make better hash at home. Hit subscribe, roll something up, and let's get into it. This episode, we are joined by Spencer Ploessl of Dark Star Cabins. Spencer is an outdoor home grower, brand builder, and cannabis beverage industry operator whose path into cultivation came through homebrewing, gardening, and a deep curiosity about how things are made. We originally met through LinkedIn, through the cannabis beverage industry, and stayed in touch through conversations about growing, the industry, and the simple pull of working with plants. His perspective brings together outdoor cultivation, appreciation for the plant beyond consumption, and the value of slowing down and reconnecting with nature. I asked Spencer to join me today to talk about his path from home brewing to cannabis cultivation, what outdoor growing teaches you about patience and observation, managing land and working with nature instead of against it, what growing on raw land taught him about patience, what he has learned from simply starting and paying attention, why stepping outside and disconnecting matters for everyone, as well as his advice to other growers.
What's up, dude?
How's it going, man?
Good, man. How are you?
I am doing well. Looks like you're staying busy.
Fuck, bud. Yeah, just a little bit. Plenty busy.
Well, and you're pretty experienced in this realm as far as podcasting and what have you.
Yeah, it's pretty chill.
So maybe start there. Like, let's talk about the podcast. So you have a podcast as well, right?
Yeah.
And you are
well, I mean, what's funny is when we started it, it was a podcast that was not a podcast because it was a show on YouTube, and that's all we started it as, the Canna Connect show.
Okay. And then you have transitioned it. What is the difference between a YouTube show and a podcast?
Maybe I should be asking you that question, man. You have a podcast, but you don't record video. So you don't have a show. Right. You just have a podcast.
And, I've thought about throwing like just an image and just throwing a video file up on YouTube so people on YouTube could listen. I don't know. Seems like if I'm going to get into YouTube, I should do video. But part of the reason I didn't want to do this podcast originally is because I didn't want to do video. I can bumble around and do it, but it's not my area of expertise, especially in this day. And so I was like, well, okay, we'll remove that layer of obstacle. Like, boom, now it's no longer a problem.
100p. Yeah, and for us, it was more like, on the Canna Connect team, we were looking to, Steven Eigenman, who is the founder of Canna Connect, he had been part of the Northern Lights podcast in Minnesota. And the Northern Lights podcast had 2 seasons, and he was kind of like the co-pilot. Right. With Tanner Barris. Tanner Barris is the kind of like the showrunner, and then Steven was kind of like his right-hand man. And long story long, that business happens, right? And people split apart, and people do different things, and people go different ways. And so Steven was like, I want to start something, but I'm not ready to start a podcast yet. And we were like, well, let's start recording. Like, let's just record, right? Let's make content.
Right.
Let's get people that it's like, let's get people on that we've partnered with before. So got people on to partner with, and we were like, let's actually start. Steven came to me and was like, let's start the Canna Connect. I wanted to start the Canna Connect show, and I wanted to be a show. I wanted to be a visual show, like going off of like Joe Budden and Rogan and things like that. Like, I want to see the people. I want to see their interactions. I want to understand. I want to almost feel as if I can be there. Because everybody and their mother nowadays has a podcast, right? Like, that's the kind of way the world has gone. And so he's like, I don't want it just to be a podcast. It can be a podcast in the future, but for right now, which was like late 2025, we just started with our production partner, and we built a studio, and we started the show. And what we did is, instead of creating episodes right away, we just went live on Facebook, and LinkedIn and Instagram and YouTube, and we just made it live.
Did
People
you have
want to watch
any
it?
like
Cool.
basis for like here's the 3 things we want to hit, or you were just like hit record and let's see what happens?
Hit record and we'll make an episode out of it later. We'll slice it and dice it and cut it apart and do the whole editing thing and make it a show and make it like episode XYZ. But for the most part, it's like raw, uncut, unfiltered, just like do it, go. Like what we've gotten in our society so caught up with this whole idea of like, we have to do things the way that they always have been done. And it's like, dude, fuck that. Like, stop doing the same shit because nobody watches and listens to the same shit anymore. You know, you got to scare yourself every once in a while. So that's what we did. And we made a show. And then, yes, now fast forward to early 2026 here. We've got the episodes going up on Spotify. I'm not sure if he's got it on Apple Podcasts yet, but maybe. I don't know. That's not my lead.
Yeah. No, it's cool to see it evolve, you know, and like everybody, like you said, anyone can have a podcast, but standing out and having conversations that are different in a valuable way, I think is the challenge.
Yeah. Most certainly. Which, like, it's so funny. Like, here I am chatting with you.
Yeah.
Podcast. Like, and I've been on tons of podcasts and tons of different podcast style shows, whether they're video recorded or just audio recorded in the last 5-6 years of my own life. And what's funny is like, go back to when we were kids and like when you had the radio on in your car.
Yeah.
And for me, listening to music, when the radio hosts came back on, I'm the kind of kid who would switch the station to find the next music.
100%.
Or like, you know, even listening to talk radio AM or talk radio in the morning or sports radio, stuff like that. That's never been me. So it's funny. I get asked to be on podcasts. I go on podcasts. I do the whole thing. I don't even, and I'll self-proclaim it. And you can ask anybody that knows me really closely. Like, I don't actually even listen to podcasts.
Yeah. Well,
which is juxtaposition.
I find myself gumming in waves with podcasts, right? Like if I'm particularly trying to learn something, or I'm in the process of like learning something, or I just bought seeds from a particular breeder, maybe I'm trying to listen to every interview they've ever done and, you know, go down that rabbit hole. But yeah, like I go through phases where I don't listen to a single podcast, and then other phases where like I'm binging them.
So. Yeah. And like on that, I mean, and rightfully so, like there's a lot of great content out of there. There's a lot of great creators out there. And for me, podcasts are just like talk radio. When I was a kid, I was like, I'd rather listen to some music. And I get there's a lot, like I said, I have to re-go at it. It's like, I know there's a lot of great information. There's a lot of great knowledge that you can gain out there through certain podcasts, et cetera, et cetera. There's tons of millions of different topics. But for me, I'm like, I'm just gonna hit play on that track, dog. Like trying to listen to those jams.
Yeah, no, I feel that. But I mean, like when you got into growing, or when you got into into homebrew first, right? That was your sort of intro to DIY. So maybe we should back up before we get too far ahead of ourselves and start with how you ended up down this track as a hobby grower. Like maybe that was either your introduction to cannabis or your introduction to the idea of cultivation, or wherever you kind of want to start, and work us through how you got to where we are now.
Yeah, that's a really, really great question. Man, I mean, it's so great that I like don't even know where to start, because you've already started to mix in like hobby, DIY, homebrewing, et cetera, in that mindset. Well, it's interesting. The two psychoactive ingredients that I sort of run in my passion lanes have both been, in the last 20 plus years of my life, have been craft beer, so alcohol, and then cannabis. And the route that I really took, you know, was it more so in like, yes, from consumption at a young age of both alcohol and cannabis, weed, pot when we were younger. Right now we're these sophisticated animals that call it cannabis, and we talk about, yeah, exactly. We talk about it on LinkedIn and we raise our fucking pinkies to it. It's like, but for me, man, it was like, yeah, I had an interest in alcohol, I mean, I'm from the state of Wisconsin, like beer and cheese run in my veins, like that's an easy one. But, I also come from a line of like, let's be honest, binge drinkers, right? That's what we do. That's in Wisconsin. What do I know? I know to party
The
hard.
Brewers.
And in the Brewers, Miller, Leinenkugels,
Yep.
right? Like that's the whole thing. Not to go down a story track of like, how my relationship with alcohol has changed over the years, we'll say. But knowing those two sort of substances, if you will, and less substances and more just like I talk about on the craft beer side from like from grain to glass, right? That whole concept. And then from like seed to flower or whatever. It's kind of like the same, similar for me. And I had a passion on both of those coins to try to figure out literally how those things came to be. So on the craft beer side, when I started in the beer and beverage world, when I was not even legally able to drink alcohol, I was 20 years old when I had my first graphic design internship with a beer distributor in Wisconsin that was a distributor of Miller Lime and Kugel's products. And I worked there for 5 years, et cetera, et cetera. Moved to Minnesota, and all I wanted to do was be at the point of conception. I wanted to be at a brewery so I could learn about water profiles, hops, different cultivars, yeast strains, and different malts and the types of kilning and the different processes that go into that to take those 4 core main ingredients to then have yourself a nice 16-ounce delicious pint of liquid gold, literally. And so take that same concept. And yeah, back when I was 14, 15 and discovered, smoking weed and getting high, like I didn't necessarily know then that it would drive me down a route to be doing what I do now or having come to know what I know now. But I'll tell you one thing is that when I started in high school, taking all the art classes that I could, and I eventually chose a major in college to be a bachelor's of fine arts degree with a graphic design emphasis, I had dreamt that I would love to design. And the easiest way to relate it is to say cigarette cartons, right? I wanted to design Marlboro, but I wanted to design it for weed. I wanted to design it for joints, a 20-pack of joints. So as a little graphic designer, still not even able to drink alcohol, but definitely consuming marijuana in this case, it was like, I want to design those someday. Maybe someday when weed is legal, I could be a designer of those things. Which then, further perpetuated this idea down the line of when I got into craft beer to obviously understand it and know it and the ingredients and making that liquid versus just like, oh, I work at a brewery, I pour beer and like, that's cool. But I actually have no idea how they make this stuff. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those humans. I know a lot of those humans. They're my friends and that's cool. But yeah. I just have this like innate curiosity as a silly monkey walking on planet Earth to understand the things that I am highly passionate about, such as cannabis in this case, to know it from seed to flower. So to kind of fast forward a few years in time, when I moved to the North Shore of Minnesota up along the banks of Lake Superior, I found myself living on 10 acres. And on that 10 acres, I have a 1/4 acre fenced in garden, of which I've been gardening for years. I grew up with a father who had a very large garden in our backyard, tomatoes and cucumbers and zucchini and squash and onions and peppers and yada, 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 all of it. So like I was a kid that grew up not with an apple orchard, but I grew up like grabbing a whole tomato off the vine and just, taking a bite out of a fresh tomato or eating cherry tomatoes like they're grapes out of the garden. And you didn't wash them, right? You didn't take them inside, you just ate them right there in your backyard. So for my cannabis side of things, like I had dabbled when I was younger, like trying to grow some seeds that I found in some pot when I was a kid in my closet under a black light because I was a hippie and I had a bunch of fucking black light posters on my walls and like thought that would work with the very little research you could do back then and the shit that you could actually Google on your home, family computer. We won't talk about the other shit that we Googled back then or Lycos or Ask Jeeved. But yeah, I mean, fast forward to now, man, like came up here and now I have this garden space that I am cultivating the land. I am using absolutely no chemicals. I mean, I've been here for 5 winters, so this will be my 5th growing summer season coming up here. Today is March 4th, so it's be here before I know it up here in zone. I think I'm in zone like 4B, maybe. I forget, but it's a very, very short growing season way up here in the North Country. I'm only an hour and a half from the Canadian border. And so yeah, long story long, man, like here I started, honestly, I got some seeds from Buddy, tried to grow them in my porch first. Like I have a big wraparound porch that has a bunch of glass windows, so it's kind of inside outside. And so I tried that and I grew this. I had two, one didn't come through, the other one worked, and I grew this sort of spindly little thing. And then like, yeah, so anyways, we can get more into the whole like what I've done now, but that's kind of like what sparked it was, yeah, you mentioned it. You're like, yeah, you have this sort of DIY home brewer, beer world of yours. Is that what got me into like cannabis and cannabis home growing? I was like, 100% it did. Because I had passions to know that thing that was craft beer, from like the raw ingredients all the way to the final product. And I have the same passions from canna, of which haven't expanded too much beyond just growing flower. Like I know, knowing and following you for the last however many freaking years already, on our social platforms, I haven't gotten to the extractions. I haven't gotten into hash making and all that kind of stuff and live rosin, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, man, but that's kind of my stick. That's kind of the story from what brought me that passionate heart about canna.
Yeah, well, and it is a little surprising given how much stainless steel you probably have lying around from your homebrew days, because that's where I ended up. How I upgraded my hash lab was finding a brewer who was getting out of it, and I got 2 10-gallon stainless steel spike brewing vessels for like $50 on Facebook Marketplace. It was a hell of a deal. Probably couldn't get the steel cheaper than that. So,
Totally.
but with that said,
Yeah.
you grow outdoors annually, and that's rooted then in just the traditional gardening experience, or is there a reason you've stayed away from indoor?
Ah, I would say, yeah, I would say intuitive gut intuition, to answer that question very straightforward, would be very traditionalist in my methodology for the energy that I want going into the things that I'm putting into my body, such as like real energetic sunlight versus synthesized sunlight, synthetic light.
Right.
Not that it's bad or like highly different, but like I just have this like from the earth,
Yeah, sun
as
grown.
above, so is below kind of thing.
Yeah.
Also, I would say on the indoor side of it, second part to that answer is space. Um, Space inside of my small 900 square foot farmhouse that I live in. That's 126 years old.
Yeah, you're like, I have 10 acres outside or 900 square feet here.
Yeah, like pick and choose your battles. Like, am I going to try to take space in the basement for a grow, or should I just go outside where I have a full garden that I've now soil solarized? I did soil solarization because it was literally just inside of the quarter-acre fenced-in area was like goldenrod and just like wildflowers, et cetera, just like weeds, prairie grasses growing. So when I got here, like I had to mow it, I had to brush hog it, I had to solarize the soil. So I was laying down.
So what do you mean by solarize? That's a new term to me.
So yeah, so soil solarization is a natural tactic, a natural tactic, yeah, I guess technique, a natural technique for readying what is a plot of land without chemicals.
Okay.
So most people would come in and be like, well, I want to make a garden here. And you just go spray Roundup all over the fucking place until all the weeds are gone. And then all the weeds are gone. And then you till the land. Well, last time I checked, what Roundup does to the soil isn't the best thing for the human body. And just because you think, oh, I sprayed on the plants die, the rain comes and the rain washes. No, we all know the cycle of life is a little different than that. That chemical is getting in the ground, it's getting in the dirt, it's getting into the mycelial network, and eventually you're going to be planting your tomatoes and your cannabis and beyond. that shit's then going back into your body at levels of which you don't even actually know as a hobbyist. So soil solarization is essentially laying down a tarp, um, canvas, or some people, larger operations, plastic or garden fabric, et cetera, laying that down so that essentially what you're doing is you're snuffing out all of the vegetation and you're not allowing light to penetrate for photosynthesis to happen and grow all those weeds and those prairie grasses, et cetera, in that quarter-acre plot that I have out there. So I've solarized patches as well as rows, because at that scale, row gardening is just a lot easier to walk in between. And then I mow in between the rows. And yeah, anyways, long story long, it's really easy. So I'm all about 100% organic gardening myself. So I talk about the vegetables that I grow and the flower cannabis that I grow. It's 100% sun grown, 100% outdoor, 100% organic grown. and that's because I know I'm putting that back inside of my body, and I already practice that as just a normal ape walking around on planet Earth, or whatever we call ourselves, our humanoid self. So yeah, I practice eating non-GMO and organic products in general, like that I wouldn't produce myself. Okay. So that's sort of why I wanted to solarize the soil and keep it non-chemical based, because I could have sprayed it with Roundup and waited, 3 to 5 years, but now I've already only been here for 5 years and I've harvested every single year.
Right. Well, and like you said, it's the residual thing. And with cannabis, the phytoremediation aspect of like the plant will literally pull up stuff that's toxic from the ground. If you are knowingly putting toxic stuff into the ground, it's a poor start. And so are you putting good stuff? Like, did you throw in like any sort of soil amendments, or are you using natural, just in the ground soil?
So when I first started, I wanted to start like, it's kind of funny. It's kind of just like the hemp beverage game. It's like start low and go slow, right? I did the same thing with cannabis cultivation. It was like, I wasn't trying to make this like big operation. I don't have a license.
Oh, I just meant even just for your garden, like just for the tomatoes and for everything else. I didn't know if you amended your soil.
No, all of it. I did it all of the above.
Okay.
I didn't amend anything. I just let it be. I was like, what can grow out here with what's out here? I don't know what I got to do to it. So in the first, growing season, there was a lot of learnings. It was like a lot of mistakes and a lot of learnings. And I'm still learning, as we always are with anything that we do from a hobby perspective or a career or life perspective. We're always fucking failing and we're always learning shit. Yeah. So the first year I did it, I didn't amend the soil, didn't put anything in it. I was like, I'll put some seeds in the ground, figure it out, right? Like shitty harvests, shitty yields, okay in some things, really bad on other things. Couldn't get a head of cauliflower to grow for the life of me. Can't get any rutabagas to grow. Can't get any cabbage to grow. Any leafy vegetables were pretty bad. Tomatoes I've been growing tomatoes for a long time, so I got those dialed like pretty early, so those were fine. After I came out of the porch, as I said, on the first time I was trying to grow some canna seeds, like first time outside, I did an experiment. I did some plants in the ground, and then I did some plants in some 20-gallon pots, just to see what would happen. And it was funny. I created, let me like build the soil stuff and things of that nature, right? In the canvas bags. And those plants didn't perform nearly as well as the ones that I had put in the actual earth.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so that's what got me going, like, all right, this is crazy. So I experimented in canvas bags alongside of plants that were also in the ground for 3 years, maybe 4 now. Yeah, I think last year was my 4th growing season where I was doing side-by-side comparisons. And then I decided for this growing season, I'm not even going to put bags above ground with canvas bags. I'm going fully in the soil for everything.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So, and then over time, now, just like turns, like I would imagine the garden is getting richer and more diverse mycelial networks and everything else.
Yeah. And what's tough too is like, once again, you have to remember this has been a field that I've been working to make it, you know, be able to produce a fruit, so to speak. And it hasn't been like, I'd love to get to a no-till, right? I'd love to not have to till up my land, but I mean, like, my rows are 3 feet wide by 17 feet, 18 feet long. So I have to till, because if I don't till back the undergrowth, the field will just take itself back over, essentially, is what I'm getting to. So I'd love to not have to till. I'd love to not have to break up the soil and the mycelial network. I'd love to be able to just go do some light, hoeing or some light raking maybe. But dude, that's years in the fucking making, or I'm gonna have to fill back. Like, I'm gonna have to put boxes and rows and do the whole thing, like, in order to get it to be somewhere where I'd like it to be. But once again, it's a small operation. I mean, if you saw it in real life, especially like in the middle of July and like August, you'd see it in real life. You'd be like, who else is helping you out here?
Yeah, I mean, a quarter acre it's small, quote unquote, by consideration of it being out of a 10-acre property, but that's a large area to be just growing.
Just like growing things just because I
As
like
an
to
urban
grow things.
hobbyist, yeah.
Yeah. So like that's probably, I just said that right there. Like, I like to grow things for the fun of it. Like, in my house, I have 40, 50 house plants
Yeah.
because I just like to take care of plants and see how plants grow. So like when people come over and see like my small little hobby operation here, they're like, dude, why do you have 24 tomato plants? And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I have the space. I also am using it as an experiment because I know not all of it will be harvested. I'm seeing what happens and what doesn't happen. Same with the cannabis. People are like, what are you going to do with all this flower, man? And everybody knows, and my close friends know me, like, I don't actually even consume a lot of cannabis myself. Like, it's a very novel thing for me that I enjoy once in a while. Honestly, I consume more cannabis in liquid format out of a beverage than I do as, a more traditional means of consumption. But that's only because of, like we've already talked about, it comes from my history in the liquid beverage space.
Right. Well, so
So,
and have you attempted to then, like, back in college, we used to make Green Dragon. We go get Everclear and we throw our seeds and our stems and our leaves, and over time shake it up, throw it in the cabinet, break it out for 420, and you had this like weed liquor, and that was like early Cannabev.
yeah.
Do you have you attempted to do any sort of rudimentary extraction or anything on your end with?
Never, man. No, I've never played any game
Okay,
uh
like I just
outside
didn't
of,
know if you had tried to make your own beverages or.
yeah, never even. I mean, I have passions for that, but like by myself, that sounds like a whole I got, dude, I have so many hobbies. Like,
That's the other
there's I
thing,
mean,
right? Is like that DIY mentality. You start looking at everything like, I could do that.
I could do that.
Give
Well,
me the
dude,
budget. I could do that.
I'm about to build. I'm like, okay, I bought a Sprinter. I bought a Mercedes-Benz Sprinter cargo van in September of 24. And now here we are. It's still a cargo van. And late spring of 26, I'm finally going to start the DIY build my adventure van out. So
Well, but
like,
in between that, you built a garden at a quarter-acre plot, and you
yeah.
also launched a business with cabins. You built the cabins too, right?
Well, so I right now, so Dark Star Cabins, yeah, is a short-term vacation rental business that I built on top of my consulting business that I also run. So yeah, I've done a couple things, but yeah, I only have one cabin inside of my constellation of cabins right now on 20 acres just north of my house.
Okay.
So there will be, you can't start with a plural. You can't have plural cabins if you don't start with a dream that has the cabins as plural.
Right.
That was my idea. So in order to have Dark Star Cabins, we just got to start with one.
Right.
And then every 2 years, hopefully I'll be opening another one, not on the same property, and different property around 20 minutes or less around my house.
And so, are those able to be cannabis friendly? Are you? What's Minnesota's take on sort of cannabis tourism, and what's your take, I guess, as a?
Yeah, I don't know the rules and regs on that, but like, yeah, I mean, essentially, yeah. I mean, yeah,
It's not
I,
prohibited necessarily.
Not prohibitive, yeah. And plus, as in the state of Minnesota, as a hobby grower, I think I can give away. I'm talk to an attorney. I'm not one. I think it's 2 ounces I can give away to an individual person.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
As a hobby grower, yeah, I think that's what it is. Let's
Because we
correct
can do an
ourselves.
ounce here in Colorado. We can give an ounce,
You
without
give an ounce.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, like back to the tourism thing with like my whole cabin business I have going on. You know, I mean, I've had brands reach out to me, cannabis beverage brands specifically, that were like, "Hey, we'd love to like stock your cabin with beverages for your guests to arrive." And so like, I haven't done that yet. Not that I don't want to. I just am trying to toe the line between like, uh, how like I'm canna friendly, right? But like, how canna friendly is every guest? I don't know that answer, and I don't know how to like approach that quite yet. I know there probably won't be an answer until I just do it, which is pretty much my motto for life. Just fucking try and see what happens. Like, if there's cannabis beverages as an example, and people are like, "Nah, dog, like I'm good," they're not going to drink them. But now let's change that to like my homegrown flower. I have had the thought of like, as a guest experience, being like, because right now my current cabin on my list of cabins is 3 minutes door to door. Like, it's not that hard. I go there to change it over. It's an off-grid cabin concept. It's very basic. It's very simple. So like, when a guest books, I'm messaging with them, right? I'm messaging them about the experience, what they should and shouldn't expect when they come to an off-grid cabin in the middle of 20 acres. And in my sequence of messaging, I once again haven't done it yet, but I've been thinking and ruminating a lot since I opened it up about 6 months ago, back in July. So I bought it in July of 2025, started the business then, and opened for bookings September of 2025. And I've been thinking since then about like what my messaging sequence would be, to be like, "Hey Ben, super excited to come up this weekend. Just wondering if you're cannabis friendly,
Yeah.
and do you partake in cannabis?" And if you were like, "Yeah, I actually do," like blah, blah, whatever, I'd be like, "Well, I'm a home grower and I had just harvested 3 different cultivars this year. I'll leave you 3 different little sample jars on the counter when you arrive. Let me know, or don't. You try them out. Have a good time. They're 100% sun grown, 100% organic, outdoor, North Shore, Minnesota, vibes of Lake Superior." Like,
Well,
that's
and
the
even
game.
like because of depending on the time of visit, right? Like you could do a harvest sort of experience, like as part
Oh,
of like not as like a add-on or a charge, like just as like a
right.
hey, you're here. My garden is in full swing. If you want to walk through and see cannabis growing in natural sun-grown environment, and then try a little bit of it afterwards, we I can happily facilitate that. Tell you all you want to know about what I've done in my garden, and on the flip
Yeah.
side, like you said, from a how canna friendly, like I think, as someone who always loves to smoke anywhere I go, but I get
Mhm.
that there's an odor factor and there's some of these other things that could
Sure.
be displeasing. But I mean, beverages inside and smoking outside is a pretty easy way around that. You know?
Yeah. I think from like a legality standpoint, for sure, because it is a business, unlike, it's obviously a private residence, private business. So it's, I don't know. I haven't looked into the legality, but in the state of Minnesota, we have the Clean Air Act,
Yeah,
Indoor Clean Air Act, where there's never really gonna, I
smoking.
mean, never say never, because everything changes, right?
Right.
Until enough money comes down the pipeline. Um, there's not really a can of lounges here per se, right? Or like indoor smoking lounges and stuff. It's just not a thing because of our Indoor Clean Air Act in Minnesota.
But yeah, I mean, like I think it tracks very much with like the everything about the mentality behind like unplugging, getting off grid, going out into nature, like, and you're like, hey, by the way, while you're out in the middle of nowhere, you want to see some weed just growing, and
Yeah,
like, you're like,
like
fuck yeah, I
stop by
do.
my house. Yeah, like pop by my land
Yeah, if you
before like you
wander
go up.
around and you walk,
Yeah, just hang out. And then like, yeah, the first property that I have here for the business is it's 20 acres and it has over a mile. I've brush hogged out over a mile of hiking paths and snowshoe paths around the property. So it's like, when you come there, the whole point is to unplug. There's no Wi-Fi.
right?
So like you already just said, you go there, there's no Wi-Fi. You're in the middle of the woods. I can walk around, never going to see a neighbor. The neighbors are, you're just never going to see any neighbors. You don't see the house. You don't see any other houses or farmhouses from the property.
It
Like,
sounds like the
what
perfect
is the
place to
next best
blaze.
thing to do? Light a fat cone up and go wander the woods for an hour.
Yeah, go out into the forest and lose your mind a little bit.
Like literally, dude. Like, so yeah, you're hitting all the bullet points, dude. I got to write these down and use them for some paid media coming up.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a cool way to introduce people. You know, like you said, like anything demonstrative about cannabis or homebrew or whether it's cannabev or whatever it is that helps kind of shatter existing stereotypes and bring people into it. Like when I have
Yeah,
people over, you know, and I'm more cautious now from an IPM standpoint, but historically, if there's an opportunity to be like, here's a live cannabis plant, you know, or here's live leaves, and you know, people have seen bud and they've seen leaves as the icon, but they've never seen them together, and you know, all these
right.
different. You're like, whoa, that's or like flower rosin pressing. Like, hey, you brought weed over, let's turn it into let's turn it into some rosin for you real quick. It's very cool from an experiential standpoint. And I think we forget, like with our familiarity,
Yeah.
how new that is to so many people.
Yeah. Oh, 100%, dude. It's like, it's like same thing equates like what used to mesmerize me about standing in a brew house, you
Yeah.
know? And like when I was a tour guide for a brewery and being able to like take groups of people around and tell them about the story of how we, at whatever brewery I was at the time, crafted the liquid that they're literally holding in their pint glass walking around, and then like explaining what's in the tanks or what was in the brew house or what they're smelling and why that smells like malt, but yet it's kind of weird.
Oh
And like
yeah.
what those grain bags are, et cetera, et cetera. And for me, like I still get jazzed up about that. Like I still go out into my garden and I walk my rows of canna and I watch them go from these just like little guys to like these monster plants that all touch each other across the rows. And I walk in between them and I just hold them and I love them and I talk to them. And it's like, that's one of the things, not to transition, but like, it's one of the biggest things with growing cannabis for me as just a hobbyist is it, I'm not even going to be able to sit here to talk to you about like nutrients and this and pH meters and all that because, dude, honestly, I really don't do a lot. Like, I have some terp tea that I use and I just top dress for my different stages, organic terp tea. And like, that's it, man. Like, I'm not measuring numbers. I got no logs. I got no books. I have nothing. I had seeds that I planted because I asked a million people about recommendations for best outdoor and what would really work up in my area. And then like other than that, I let it self figure it all out. Like, yeah, sometimes I help them a little bit if like I'm up on top of the hill where the garden is. And so like sometimes in the summertime in July, dude, I can get like 30+ mile-an-hour winds. And I got stalks that are, 3-4 inches at the base because they just know how they're a plant. Like if you
Right.
just let the plant grow, give it water, sunlight, and some nutrients. Like I'm not like the biggest thing I can tell you last year that I did was I tossed back oyster shells. Like that was the biggest thing after I talked to one of my grow guys down in Duluth, Minnesota. I was like, hey man, I'm seeing this. He's like, here's a box of oyster shells, man. Sprinkle, sprinkle, and that should hopefully help you. Like
Yeah.
other than that, like it's literally love, dude. It's like I know when I'm quote unquote too busy with work shit or life shit. And all of a sudden, like I walk around my land every day. Every morning, I have a chocolate lab. I walk him around the lab every day. My partner, Katie, she walks him around and usually in the afternoon. And then I take him again in the evening. And there are times in the summertime when I'm like, once again, too busy. And I'll pass by that garden. I'll start seeing the leaves drooping. I'm like, dude, you guys got enough water, dog? Like, you guys got enough sunlight. What is wrong with you? And then I'll literally be like, oh my gosh, they're literally in the garden and they're watching me pass by and they're going, they just want the life of their
Right. It's like your
caretaker.
dog or anything else that you love being like, yo, what about me, man?
Dude, I go into that garden for a couple of days and just touch them, right? And just run your hands through them, walk through the rows and smell them and just whatever. And then the next day I'll come out and all the ladies they're just all reaching for the sun. And that's all I did was went into that garden and gave them some of my energy. I mean, you just said dog. Normally I walk around the land with my dog at around like 3:30. Well, it's 5:40 my time, and he's sitting outside of my door right now while we're recording this because I haven't taken him out because I had meetings all the way up until we got together. And he's like, "Yo, dude, when are we going on my walk?"
It's like, yo, I know it's my time, man.
Yeah,
So,
for real.
so are you sowing those seeds directly, or are you germinating them, or what? How do you like go right into the land? You just go right into the soil, or
So how did I do it? So I've graduated a little bit, which now gets me into so the first 3 years, I was just germinating in the old paper towel and plate, trick, which I still do. Works great for me. I've never had to figure it out any other way. Works
right?
great. Pop all the seeds. And then I'd just take that and I'd go right out into the garden, right into the soil.
Okay.
Now, because I've learned my growing season and what I'm not going to be able to get, especially for the photo period game, my soil doesn't get above 50 degrees consistently until June 1st.
Oh wow.
I usually don't get to plant until late May, of which I can't plant in late May because I go into the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness for over a week. And that is when I should be tilling and getting the land ready. So I come back usually from that in early June. I usually try to have my plants in before June 10th. So in the beginning, it was literally just sow a seed that was just popped and put that in and figure it out.
Yeah.
Now fast forward to me doing a lot more learnings. I have done what we talked about originally, not making a grow setup downstairs, but I have made an actual germination station where I have heat mats and I have my little cups and I got my lights and I get them at least well on their way to be able to be ready for outside movement.
Little starters.
Yep, little starters. Yep, which has helped me immensely because then I get a jump on my growing season way up here in northern Minnesota. So, like, honestly, today is March 4th to timestamp this podcast when we recorded it anyway. And I will probably be trying to get those seeds, of which we should talk about that because I don't have any seeds. I ran out of my seeds that I used for the last 2 or 3 growing seasons. I grew the same cultivars, 3 or 4 different cultivars. I'm all out, so I'm ready to start. I'm ready to buy some new ones. And try some new strains. But anyways, hopefully in the next few weeks, by the end of March, I'll be germinating and putting them in their little dirt cups and getting them on the heat mat and getting them going. So yeah, by the time, end of May, give them a couple months start. So by then, literally, it's usually by about, I have to look back on my phone to see the pictures, but to be honest, it's probably like right around mid to late March is when I start the germination process. And then by the time mid to late April hits, I'm literally taking those cups and I'm taking them outside and I put them on a table during the day and I let the sun
just acclimate.
Yep, acclimate. And then I bring them back inside for overnight because otherwise it's going to be too cold outside and or the elements, etc. I mean, can still get down in April up here. I mean, it can still get down in the 30s and even into the 20s. So I play that game until late May. And I used to start, on like red solo cup style, like garden cups. Now I have really graduated into starting in 1 gallon, black pots.
Yeah.
And then I usually don't is it 1 gallon or 2 gallon? I forget. I have to look at them. And I don't transfer them anymore. I used to transfer from a solo cup to a 1 gallon to a 3 gallon to 3 gallon to outside. And now it's like, dude, I just go with the ones and I get them big enough and I get those stems nice and strong. And then they go outside.
Yeah. No, I mean, from what I hear, and again, I have a very limited outdoor, but yeah, I mean, you're giving that plant that little hardier start, right? Like it's a little bit more established and isn't going to be as vulnerable.
Yeah, that's pretty much why I do it. And also I do it for it to be a little hardier, like you said, but I also do it for the fact that I get a few extra months out of it. Like I usually harvest. I try to have everything harvested around like the 1st to 2nd week of October, of which I can have gone through 2 to 3 light frosts before then. So I have had issues with, oh shit, it's gonna frost, and I cover them up, and I'm like, I can't cover them. I'm not gonna. They're just, if they don't do well or some have bud rot, well then we're gonna cut it out and we're gonna chop them down and we're gonna cull them or whatever we're gonna do. And I mean, like, I have enough plants for me that, like, if I get some bud rot from a frost, like, I'll chop the whole plant down. I don't care.
Right.
Like, because I'm not in it to sell it. I'm in it to grow and experiment. So how many frosts can I go through before the plant is
Well, your consumption rate, you're like, I don't like, okay, we'll call it a loss on that one.
yeah, like, again, it's I have seeds. I grow the seeds. All of this is for fun. It's not to make an outcome, which outcome then turns into flower. Flower turns into a product. Product turns into money. And in return, I start the cycle again. It's literally like, I start from a bunch of seeds and I plant them outside. And then I just grow all these plants throughout the summer, a place where I already am in the garden worrying about my, vegetables and walking my dog around the land. Like, I'm already out there. I spend a lot of time outside in the summertime.
Yeah.
So, like, being and growing cannabis, that's where there's like this weird, I mean, you get it. You can read and read and read and listen to idiots like me on a podcast talk about all this stuff. But, like, honestly, I have done it in such a way that's like, so I've tried to simplify it as much as I possibly can. Like, honestly, get some seeds, put them in the fucking ground, see what happens. If they don't grow, or the buds are small, or they don't produce a great high, or whatever the things are, do it again next year. Change a variable. Shit, change 2 variables if you want to get wild, right? Like, I gave one of my plants that was probably, one of my starts was probably almost 2 feet tall, and I gave it to my cousin and was like, he's never grown. He's a big smoker. I'm like, here you go, man. Buy some cloth pots. Here, I said, I actually gave him one of my 20-gallon pots. I said, here's a pot. Go buy this kind of dirt, et cetera, et cetera. Put this plant in there and water it and watch it and see what happens. And, like, it was funny. When I sent him the pictures from the stuff I was growing that came from the same seeds that he was growing, he was like, dude, what did I do wrong? I'm like, dude, you didn't do anything wrong. You did year 1 of being given a really hardy start, and now you're just learning. Now you're going to change some variables up next year, and you're going to see what does or doesn't work. And he's like, I'm putting him in the ground next year in my garden. He lives in town, he's got a garden in his backyard. He can do that. He'll be fine. But he was all like, oh man, it didn't really work out that great. I'm like, it looks like it worked great to me, because you should have seen my year 1.
Yeah. Well, and so on that note, like, when you started this process, did you just had whatever seed your buddy gave you, and, like, now you've worked through buying seed, or how do you buy seed? How do you approach seed buying? Are you looking for flavors, or are you looking for gorgeous plants and flowers to walk through, or, like, what's your pursuit?
Yeah. So yeah, when I first started, it was just like a buddy who, like, was down in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul. He was just growing, and he was just going outside and having a fun time, and he wasn't paying too much attention to them, and they were pretty seed laden, and it was fine. And so I took a bunch of those seeds from them, literally, my buddy's name is Jameson. So I literally have a jar that literally says Jameson seeds. So I don't know what they are. They're a whole mixed bag. And I grew those the first year and the second year, and they were fine. They weren't the greatest. So then I bought seeds, and I started with, LinkedIn. That's how we've connected, and that's how I connected with other people in the industry. So Mark from Brothers Grimm is who I originally had connected with, and started asking him questions and this, that, the other thing. And then I just bought some different cultivars from Brothers Grimm, asking, hey, I'm going to grow outside 100%. And I live here, and these are what I want to do. And I'm just experimenting and whatnot. So yeah, honestly, all my brothers, and I've been happy with all the plants that I've grown through Brothers Grimm seeds. And to your other question about, like, what am I looking for? Honestly, it was just looking for, like, historical knowledge on what grows outside really, really well in the photo period style. And I also like plants, that can get big and that can grow really big, beautiful buds. And that was one of the things this last season. Like, I had some colas that were like, like full arm colas, like monster fucking chunky, like, because that was what I was always at. You get it. Like, I was after trying to get as tight buds as I could get, really chunky buds after drying and then curing. in the first couple of years, it was like they were really wispy, and like, not that it's a bad thing. It's just like there's just techniques, there's understanding, there's like getting to learn and what you should do, what you shouldn't do, how much nutrients, how much not nutrients, et cetera, et cetera. So like this last growing season was, well, which is rightfully so, because I've paid attention. That's one of the biggest things. If you don't pay attention, you're not going to get out of it what you had hoped. And I don't pay all the attention like it's the only thing I do, but I pay enough attention to my plants that after 5 years of fully outdoor growing, I was able to get some really, really, really nice plants this past year. So much so that my cousin, who I was talking to you about, who I gave one starter to that he grew, at the end of the season, like, dude, I literally chopped plants down in my field and left them whole. Like, I cut off top colas, like all the way up till this last season. I have always harvested the whole plant. I always do wet trimming out in the field because I love being out in the field in the late August sunshine. August, September, the late September sunshine, where like I might have a light jacket on and some pants and some boots, and I'm just out there wet trimming. It saves me a lot of time, right? And then I bring all my plants into my fruit cellar in my basement, and then I hang dry them. This year, this past 2025 growing season, I literally hung 4 plants, and everything else was just like 3 to 6 top colas from the other plants. And then the rest, I literally was like, I don't have any help. Like, I can't do this.
I just want the best stuff. And yeah, you just leave this here.
And it wasn't even about it. Like, all the rest of it wasn't quote unquote good. It was just like, I don't have the space to cut down these plants and hang them in my little fruit cellar in my basement. And, I sent those pictures of my cousin with the fallen soldiers out inside of the field. And he's like, dude, you can't do that. Like, I'll come and help you. I'm like, bro, you got 2 kids. You ain't coming up to my place to help me trim buds.
It's like the neighbors that we have, they have a pear tree, and like every once in a while they'll put a sign out, and it's like, please come pick pears off of our tree because they're going to fall and rot, and it's going to, please come help us. And then they take the sign down once, enough pears have been picked.
Yeah. I resonate. I get it. I have a neighbor who has has 2 plum trees, and he's like, dude, when you're walking the lane, because he knows I do a loop around the 10 acres every day, and he's like, you see any ripe ones, just pick them, because and we have 2 right along the garden edge. We have 2 tart cherry trees out here, and they're taller than my tallest ladder. Like, I can't even get up to the top cherries. So it's like, when it's like right in July, when they're ready, you got to get them, because otherwise it could be like a few days and then they're just fermented and they fall when the birds get them and they're done.
Then you get bugs and you get all sorts of other fun things that come with that.
Yeah. Then that's just like, I have a couple apple trees, younger apple trees. And it's the same thing. It's like, you might see, 40 apples out on that tree, but 10% of them are only going to be good because of bugs, et cetera, et cetera. And like, that's been a whole game out here too, man. Like, outdoor growing, it's like, I talk about how cool and fun it is and the elements of sun and water and wind and rain. But dude, talk about, what is this bug taking? Why are these leaves curling? What is this happening? Why does that look black? And you're like, I don't know. Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that's daunting to me as an indoor grower who has a lot more control, is like, again, like genetic selection, some of these other things become way more important when you don't have that control, and you can't baby the plant along and give it every little bit of cushion it needs.
Right. Like, I literally just pretty much it's the powers that be. I mean, I have like, what was the word you used? With soil in the beginning?
Amendment?
What'd you say?
Amending?
Oh yeah, amending the soil. So like, now I till the soil every year, usually in the fall and the spring. It's a light till, right? It's nothing crazy. But every time I do dig those holes to toss those starts down in there, I do amend with like, I get some build a soil bags, or I'll get some compost or whatever, all organic stuff, all good stuff that I can find up in my neck of the woods. And I do, pack around it. And then I add soil back at, certain points of the year, just top dress with some fresh newts in the soil. And I feel like, those things have helped me. But once again, it hasn't been excessive. It's just been enough to be like, oh, well, was looking in the garden shed. I'm like, oh, there's a whole bag of 3-3 build a soil. I'll grab that and you just go top dress all the plants out there, mid-July or something.
Right. You're
So
not vibe coding, you're vibe feeding.
yeah, pretty much.
That's awesome. So in this pursuit then, do you feel like you got that firsthand experience and understanding of the plant that you were aiming for in this pursuit?
I don't think the journey is still, I'm only at the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, even after 5 years, there's still so much more I can learn. There's still so many other variables I can change. Like shit, there's stuff that I have and can continue to learn from you and absorb and get inspo from an indoor grower and people that I've met up around my area that are also indoor growers. And I've come to know a few outdoor growers as well, all hobbyist stuff. And now add another layer, Minnesota, 23rd state in the union, to be opening up legal recreational marijuana is still opening its doors. Their cultivators are just coming online. Like the tribes have been online for a little while now, and they're the ones providing the very few dispensaries that are open with recreational cannabis flower. And now barely, like a dispensary I'm working with just got resin carts in today. Like,
wow.
It's wild, dude. It's a wild world. But what I'm saying is I have a lot to learn from the cultivators in my network through Canna Connect that like are going to be doing full career grow operations, like, so to get back to your question of like, did I fulfill what I set out to? I don't know. Like I haven't hit land yet. I'm still on the ship, dude. And like, I'm having a good time. So I don't know what I don't know, but I know that every year I've told myself I'm going to dial it back and then I just go bigger.
Well, I love that. I love to hear that. And
Yeah.
like, we've talked about, you got all this extra plant material, man. Don't let it die in the field. Throw it in your freezer and wash it.
Yeah, I know. That's what another buddy of mine said, which I actually did. I hung a bunch. So I had so in my main garden is where I try to grow all my prized possessions, and then alongside of a detached garage in another part of the land, there is this what I found is some pretty fertile soil, and also the sun hits it starting at about 1 o'clock. And I grew 2 years ago there. I grew about 6 foot plants. I grew 4 6 foot plants along there, and like you got to think alongside of this red, kind of barn garage thing, the sun is just the heat is just cycling through there, right? It's so hot, so warm. They love it. Well, this last year I grew 12 to 14 foot plants there. It's not always about height, but like they were almost as tall as the side of the garage, like to the eaves of the garage. It was well, I've never grown cannabis, and these buds were just like 4+ inches in diameter. Like it was wild. They didn't necessarily, and I hung those all, and I had a buddy wash a lot of those, but he said that they didn't actually produce a lot of trikes. So they were tall, but they used all that energy to go up and they didn't put as much in. I also didn't do any, so I did a little bit of topping in my main garden, but I didn't top those because I just wanted to see. I was like, how big can I get these things to grow?
Right.
Just
You
for
just let
fun.
nature do its thing. See what happens.
Exactly. But I also didn't do any lollipopping or anything like I could have. Like next year, like if I do any plants over there, I'll pop them out so that they can put some serious energy into those top colas that are reaching for the sun and not trying to put it into the bottom ones. Like, dude, like the trunks on these things at the base was 5-6 inches thick. Like these are like mini trees that grow in 6 months.
Well, and like you
Why?
said, like the sun doing different things, like my limited experience washing outdoor material, like I have friends who've actually mixed indoor and outdoor batches of like Trop cookies is a perfect example. I've washed it indoors, I've washed outdoor material, and I've washed mixed material.
Yeah.
And purely based on biomass, my experience is you get a lower percent, which is what everybody's looking for, this percent to bubble or percent to hash. And that's because like you're growing physically more biomass. It's maybe the same or similar amount of resin, just
Right.
it's a percentage of net weight. So I would say like gut feeling is like, having the plant focus its energy on things other than stretching all the way up to the sun, is going to help it focus on resin. But also, like you said, like just doing training and just doing little things, like you're going to see those improvements here and there and everywhere. It's like I have a buddy who, like, he's been growing outdoors for 20, 25 years, goes outside after work, turns the hose on, sits there and smokes a joint, waters them. That's it. And I was like, oh my God, dude, if you cleaned up like the bottom half of these plants, I'm going to rock your world with what these buds look like. So, just little tweaks here and there.
And that's exactly what I did over the last couple of years. Honestly, last 2 years of growing, I've done some of that trimming. I've done some of that bottom trimming. I've some of the internal stuff. I was like, I don't need a top. That doesn't make any sense. Like, I just want it to be natural, like let it do its thing. It's a plant. And then like this past year I had, I think I topped, I don't know, like 4, 6 different plants. I topped them and like got them to create 3 new, and it was just I was highly convinced at what happened after doing that. And I only did one top cutting when they were already like probably past when the average person might even top cut.
Yeah. Well, and outdoors, that's the other thing, right? You're on nature's schedule. You have a little less control over certain things. So on that note, like, let's transition into some of these rapid fires and talk through, kind of summarize what we've talked about.
Sure.
So your first grow, basically, if I'm hearing this right, basically bag seeds that were direct sown and container planted, but in a brand new garden and water only. And then now you've got like a germination station and a routine. You've got this starter process that helps you get kind of more advanced start in the ground, and now sounds like going all in on the ground, and the occasional compost tea, terp tea, microbe, mycelium, additional add-ins, but other than oyster shells, not a whole lot. Just letting nature do its thing.
Pretty much, man.
Love that. And from what I hear, you're a wet trimmer, not a dry trimmer.
I am a wet trimmer, not a dry trimmer. Although this year I did a lot of dry trimming.
Yeah. And organics instead of salts.
Yep.
And as a consumer, I know that it's more novel for you to consume in a smokable format, but are you a flower or an extract guy?
I have never smoked extracts.
Wow.
Does that blow your mind today?
That does blow my mind. So like live resin, distillate, live rosin, none of it. Oh my God.
Never smoked it. Never ripped dabs, never hit a rig, never nothing. Well, not that I won't.
Yeah.
It's just that it's just been about like smoking flower. That's just, I don't know. Like, yeah.
Well, if I make my way up to Dark Star, I will be sure to pop that cherry.
Dude.
Dude, it's so funny that you haven't had any of that. Okay, so well, everybody's got their thing. So for you though, preferred consumption would be in beverage format.
Yeah, 100p. Like you'll find me 10 times almost out of 10 drinking cannabis beverages. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have pretty high tolerance?
The next time you get to the next set of 10, I might smoke a cone.
Okay.
Some homegrown.
Are you so you're a joint guy, or that's your preferred if you're smoking?
Oh yeah, I'll pack pre-rolled cones all day.
Okay, love that. There's a social aspect to joints and passing around, and I think that's often lost in some of the like beverages, like we've talked about ad nauseum. There's that social drinking aspect,
Yes. Yeah. And like when I'm out walking my property or wherever I'm at, if I'm up at Dark Star Cabin, it just smoking a fat cone, walking around, like there's nothing like being outside in the woods and just, 100%. Smoking trees while you're walking amongst the trees, man.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's one of the best things about living in Colorado for the same reason. At every turn, there's a trail or a mountain or something.
Yeah.
Okay. So out of the seeds that you've popped, were there any plants that stood out that you're like, oh, I really liked that one?
So I share a lot of my bud. Like, obviously I told you, I don't smoke a lot of my own stuff. I don't smoke a lot in general.
Well, could even be just how it grew, or one you would,
Yeah. Like I just love smoking weed I love growing weed because I love growing plants. But of the ones that I've grown, and I've smoked every single strain that I've grown. But this past growing, like the last 3 growing seasons, I've been growing G13 Genius from Brothers Grimm. And like, I have a lot of friends that have really, 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 really loved how that flower turned out. It's more heavy on the indica side of things. But people have been loving that. And honestly, this year, 2025 growing season, dude, I got a couple seeds from my buddy, Hulkberry. That's those were never from my stash. And I grew those, and like it was some of the most. It brings me back to my hop days from the beer industry of when I worked for a hop cooperative in New Zealand called New Zealand Hops, and I got to live in New Zealand for almost a month during harvest time. Some of the most sought after aromatics that come from hop cultivars are from New Zealand, and there was this Hulkberry dude, like brought me back to like just this citrusy tropical, like in the like I knew I could close my eyes and you could take me to every one of my plants and I could smell all of them and I would be able to tell you which one I would be able to tell you which one everyone is, but like so much so that my little popsicle sticks where I had this strain written on them and then put them down by the base of the plant when they grew, all of them washed off because they're literally wooden popsicle sticks with Sharpie. And I didn't know which was which until, because I'd been growing all the other strains every year for the last couple of years, I knew which ones all my Brothers Grimm seeds were. And then the new one, which was Hulkberry, I was like, this is amazing.
What is this?
What is this stuff? And just from an aromatics perspective, and it carried all the way through to dried and cured and smokable flower. It was pretty magical.
I love that. And again, like those plants that stand out, they stick with us. And so you haven't cloned any of these. You haven't attempted to try to keep any around?
No, haven't done any of that.
Okay. And I guess for the rest of the garden, everything else that you grow is from seed every year also?
Yep. I don't even go buy plants. I literally put seeds downstairs in dirt underneath grow lights to grow little starts from lettuce, tomatoes, cucumbers, beans, pumpkins, peppers. I don't know, the list goes on and on and on. Zucchinis, squash, butternut, buttercup. I tried to grow watermelon last year. I grew heirloom sweet corn last year. I grew fucking Yukon Gold potatoes, dude. I'd never grown potatoes in my life. And I fucking harvested these potatoes. I had like 150 Yukon Gold potatoes. I was so pumped because we eat a lot of soup in the winter. So I was able to put that in my my little root cellar that I have. And like, I'm still eating potatoes that I grew last year right now.
Yeah. Well, and that's like, my wife and I talk about taking one of the grow tents and turning it into a vegetable tent in the winter because all the farmers markets disappear and all your friends that all have gardens and things, you're like, man, this little window of having to go to the store kind of sucks.
Dude, you should do it. Dude, you'd be surprised how fast you can also grow lettuce, like romaine, red leaf, green leaf. Like you'll have lettuce in no time.
Yeah, I had a good friend, my buddy Love for the Plant. He had a pepper tree that he kept it alive for like 5 years in a 2x4 bed that just kept getting, nicer and richer, and it was great peppers. But eventually died and went back to weed. Okay, well, so what is keeping you excited about cannabis these days? It sounds like there's a lot, but I didn't know if you had anything in particular.
Oh man, a lot of things. Some of the beverage collaborations that we've been doing, that I've been a part of. July of 25, we launched a cannabinoid-rich beverage called Cocoa Flow with a brewery in and around Minneapolis. And I mean, like Canna Connect team here in Minnesota. And then we literally just last Friday launched a new, again, cannabinoid-rich beverage. This one's 5 megs of THC, 10 megs of CBG, and 25 megs of CBD. It's actually inspired by fresh pressed green juice. So it's got apple, lemon, ginger, cucumber. It's got a little splash of celery stalks in there, celery root, a little bit of turmeric, a little bit of jalapeno, not overtaking like too hot. And then it's also got, from Abstract Tech, it's got pineapple terpenes on the top of it, but it pours green with all natural flavors, just like a fresh pressed green juice was. And it's actually called, you can't see it because we're on a video, but you can see it because I can show you. It's called the Green Standard.
Okay, yeah, that's cool.
It was a collaboration with It's called the Green Standards, the cannabis refresher. I actually designed the can.
I was going to say that looks like your design. That's pretty awesome for those that can't see it.
So it's got pine trees. It's got a river flowing through it. Like it's got a float plane up top, which is actually inspired by Earl Giles's logo. Earl Giles is a really, really cool drinks emporium in Minneapolis. So I'm just excited about cannabis beverages, man. Like that's my world, especially coming from craft beer and beverage in general, and like being able to do cool collaborations and make badass stuff with people that, I mean, that just have a love for the plant too, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's quite the intersection, of passions.
Right. Especially from a stigma breaking standpoint too.
Yeah, dude. And like you're from Wisconsin. Like we go back to Wisconsin every year, and Wisconsin's big on drinking, and like being able to just buy a THC beverages right alongside the beer at the Piggly Wiggly it's shattering in a lot of ways. It's great for access for people who want a discreet access, but it's also, I think, normalizing for a lot of people who are used to seeing their substances in drinkable form.
Yes, 100%.
What advice would you give to other hobbyists, either who have some land and want to give it a shot, or who just have wanted to try growing themselves?
Start, just go. Because you can overwhelm yourself, just like I did with homebrewing. When I first started homebrewing, like I never did the brew in a bag. I never did the liquid extracts of malt extracts. Like I waited all the way until I had all the really cool equipment. I had all the knowledge to be able to do all grain homebrewing. And like that put me back, not that I was like at a loss, but it put me back 5+ years of thinking I needed to learn all the stuff to do it the cool way. And it's like, no, dude, you're going to learn by doing. Get your hands in the dirt, figure out some seeds. They don't have to be perfect. There's plenty of places you can get great seeds, and there's plenty of places you can get okay seeds. You don't have to buy the $100 for 3 seeds if that's not your level of, introduction. Grab the one that's $24.99 for 10, on sale today. Like whatever. Just start. Just fucking put seeds in the dirt and see what happens and learn, because that's how I'm where I'm at. And I've only been growing outdoors for 5 years, but I've learned so much shit because I just said, fuck it. I'm going to let nature do it. And when I let nature do it, I was like, I think I'm going to have a little human intervention here.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's perfect. Like my goal that I talk about was just keep it alive. Like that's it. Just keep it as simple as make it to harvest. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
The rest will come with time.
And which for some people, dude, between you and I, we both very well know, just keeping plants alive is a very, very difficult task in and of itself. So if you don't overcomplicate it, like people in my life I know, one of them I live with, if I left the plants for too long inside of the house, just the house plants, which you don't have to do much, but just give them some water once a week, they might not all be here.
See, and I'm the one who breaks that down. Like my wife's got all the house plants, and it's funny actually, because I have now said that my plant count is determined by her plant count. And so she's got easily 50 or 60 different species of plants floating around the house. I'm like, all right, cool. We're way below our threshold.
Yeah. I love it.
Well, so for people who've enjoyed this and people who want to learn more about what you're up to or keep tabs on your efforts in the beverage industry or your efforts with Darkstar, where can they find you? Where do you want people to engage with you, and what do you want to plug?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I deleted all my social media channels in 2020 besides LinkedIn. So LinkedIn really the only place you're going to find me. Yeah, you can find me on Facebook, but I don't really use Facebook. I just have it because it's a de facto of like being able to log into client brand accounts. So find me on LinkedIn, Spencer Ploessl. I have a website. That's my consulting business is spencerplussl.com. But really, like you said, Darkstar Cabins, that's a place you want to find me in like a cabin woods kind of guy that looks like Sasquatch coming out of the wilderness kind of guy. Follow Darkstar Cabins on Instagram, or go to darkstarcabins.com. We also are on Airbnb as well.
Very cool. Yeah. And if you hear this and you find your way to booking, definitely ask about the harvest experience.
Hell yeah, dude. I would love to have anybody come by the property for sure.
Awesome. Well, this has been a super pleasure, man. We got to do this more often, and I appreciate you taking some time to share your journey with the audience here.
Hell yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for let me share my experiences and lend a word or two. So I appreciate you, man.
Absolutely, brother. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, peace.
That's it for now. New episodes drop weekly to inspire your hobby. Hit subscribe, leave a review, share with a friend. And as always, I'm your host, Ben Owens, and we'll see you next time.